There is difference between strength training and hypertrophy training. Now, there is a lot of crossover as well. And when you are younger, that crossover is fine. Getting a little bit of muscle is fine. Getting a little bit stronger is absolutely fine. But as you are older, the cons of getting this wrong are pretty important. So by the end of this video, you will know why strength training is different to hypertrophy training and the implications of getting this wrong. It's going to take about 13 minutes. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name's Paul Green. I'm a former British paratrooper and Special Forces Support Group operator. I had my last day in the army a couple of days ago, and I've worked with a lot of elite men in the performance world because the job is so demanding on the body, in particular aerobic endurance, muscular endurance. However, the last 4, 5, 6 years, we started really pushing the strength as the foundation. And what happened is a lot less people got injured as a result of this. Anyway, I left the army, and now I run the longevity program, which is a strength and conditioning service, fully online, for men over the age of 40 that take part in extreme sports and adventure sports. Martial artists, rock climbers, mountain bikers, skydivers, free runners, skateboarders, and a couple of others. The plan for today, we're going to talk about why there's confusion in the first place. You may think you are getting this right. However, if you're not a very experienced lifter, you might be training the wrong thing. And trust me, it's important that you get this right the older you get, because you want to be going in the gym and benefiting your body. You don't want to be... A lot of people over the age of 40 that are doing martial arts, that are doing rock climbing, will go to the gym and they will destroy themselves and they won't go to the gym again because they've made these mistakes. I'm going to talk about hypertrophy training, then strength, why this all matters for you. So if that sounds good, chill out, get yourself comfortable, and just be ready to absorb this information. So, it is my belief that the confusion lays somewhere because the fitness industry is heavily influenced by the bodybuilding industry. So, everything that comes after that usually takes principles from the bodybuilding world. Now, with bodybuilding and strength, a lot of bodybuilders, unless they're professional bodybuilders, will be happy with gaining a little bit of strength. And a lot of people that are training strength will be happy with gaining a little bit of muscle mass. So what that means is there's a mixture of two different demographics that are all mingling their exercise selection, their reps, their rest periods and stuff like that. And the hypertrophy benefit and the strength benefit growth over a period of time gets a little bit watered down, and the version of the truth gets watered down as well. That's my belief. That's why I believe there's so much confusion with this. It's very rare that you get somebody that doesn't care about strength that is training for hypertrophy. And when I say hypertrophy, right, and I mean hypertrophy training has been extremely effective method to enter, 40, 50, 60-year-old men into the gym. It's not because my intention is to get them really muscly and bulky and all the rest of it like bodybuilders. It's not a bad thing. It's an introduction to earning the right to strength training. Because strength training is less reps, more weight, at a faster tempo than hypertrophy training. Anyway, I'm going to get more into that in a sec. But hopefully you appreciate why I believe there is confusion. And now we're going to talk about hypertrophy training specifically. So, hypertrophy training is purely focused on muscle building, gaining more muscle fibers and increasing the size of those fibers. And it is done through volume. Now, a recent study came out start of last month, showing that there is a drop off that happens as you add more volume. Every increment you go up from 10 working sets, 20 working sets, 30 working sets, 40 working sets, there is a slow drop off. However, the interesting thing from this paper is that there is no evidence to suggest that there is a drop-off on 40, 50, 60 sets of volume. All of these studies basically went to 40 working sets. So you build muscle through volume, through doing a lot of working sets at the required intensity. The reps and the tempo of hypertrophy training. Typically, hypertrophy training is a little bit higher reps. Again, the research suggests that anywhere from 5 to 25 repetitions is absolutely fine, but you need to be hitting the required intensity of close to failure, 90 to 95% effort every single working set, and you will gain muscle. And a very controlled tempo, one that focuses on the maximum lengthening of a muscle contraction and the shortening, full control of the full range of motion. The benefits for adventure sports, extreme sports athletes is this will eventually carry over to an increased endurance capacity. The stronger you are, the more endurance you will be able to do when that shift happens in your body, when you change over to endurance training, because you've got the foundation of hypertrophy and strength. The main benefit for me in the longevity program, and most of the reason I preach about this stuff on this channel, is because it hugely reduces injury risk. Because it is done with less weight, more control. It's not about gaining the muscle. I couldn't care less about gaining the muscle. That's a vanity metric, right? But it's this is the main reason I'm constantly harping about this stuff with regards to the longevity program on this channel. And what I would say is a period of hypertrophy training, the stigma of hypertrophy training is like, oh, I don't want to get muscly. I'm over that now. I'm married, I've got kids, I prefer skiing. Why would you want to do hypertrophy training? Well, it's this. This is the reason. This is the golden nugget right here. And the byproduct of it is, yeah, you're going to gain a bit more muscle. But then the more muscle you gain, the more food you can eat without gaining fat. So that's hypertrophy training. And I just want you to think of hypertrophy training as your introduction to weightlifting with the main focus on reducing injury risk. Strength training, I call this bridging the gap. And the reason I call it bridging the gap is because you're going to go heavier than your hypertrophy. You're going to do less reps. And this is where we prioritize how much weight we can lift, not how much volume we can do. So the reps and the tempo. Lower reps, I recommend 3 to 6 for my resilience block on the longevity program, which is the second block, 12 weeks roughly, at a faster tempo. Typically about 1 second on the way down, 1 second on the way up is fine. Previously, the tempo would be probably about 3 seconds on the way down. To gain more muscle, you want to prioritize the eccentric contraction. Now, bringing it back to you in your crazy sports, if you just done hypertrophy for your sport, you would become good at a controlled movement. Now, we know that all of these activities, rock climbing is more controlled, so hypertrophy probably supports rock climbers extremely well. However, for other activities like martial arts that require fast bursts of power, it's important that we bridge the gap. And what I mean by bridging the gap is increasing the speed in which you perform the contraction. Because if you're not ready to perform a contraction at a certain speed, you're very vulnerable in them crazy scenarios that we always find ourselves in. Mountain biking, skiing, doing turns, whether it be free running. You need to be bridging the gap. You can't simply do slow movements in the gym and then expect to be able to be completely safe and your joints to be completely resilient when you are doing shenanigans. Makes sense? So this matters because when you get to a certain age, if you're training the wrong thing, thinking that it serves you a certain way and it doesn't, again, you're just going to be vulnerable. So you need to learn how to tailor your workouts for muscle size or strength gain. a balanced approach is typically what everybody does, but I recommend not doing a balanced approach. I recommend starting things off with hypertrophy. So controlled movements, moderate weight, high repetitions, high intensity, get the technique down, have a period of hypertrophy, and take the stigma of I don't want to gain muscle because my life is absolutely fine now. Forget about that. It's the reduction in injury risk which this hypertrophy training block is going to achieve. But also, it earns us the right to do strength training. People that get this wrong, they will train strength and they've never touched a weight before in their lives. They will go into the gym and do deadlifts, lift as heavy as they can. New year, new me, want to get stronger for rock climbing. And they won't go to the gym again for the next 2 weeks because they've injured their back. They haven't done the prerequisite. Do this first, then go into this for a while. Does that make sense? So, with this, it has a knock-on effect, especially as you get older. Younger kids, mate, can get away with this, right? Balance, do a little bit of that, they recover a lot faster. You get this wrong and you start training strength when you should be training hypertrophy, it has a huge knock-on effect on your central nervous system. For example, if you haven't been to the gym for 6 years and you're in the gym doing deadlifts on Monday and you're doing 3 rep maxes or 4 rep maxes, you're gonna be off work for the rest of the week. You're gonna be not being able to mountain bike for the rest of the week. Do you know what I mean? It's just you haven't done the groundwork, and it's so important that you do. So I just need you to be able to just check yourself and have a little think about the difference. What are you actually doing? And then go, is this actually what I want? Happy days. And then go from there. Because, yeah, it affects your central nervous system. And if you're training strength, the recovery demands and the adverse effects on your joints is so much greater. I'm going to go back a slide. Actually, no, never mind. I'll talk about it at the end. Injury prevention, hypertrophy block, massively important. But as it progresses, the strength stuff will build resilience. So hypertrophy block, very important to reducing pain, increasing range of motion. The strength block starts to build resilience, so you don't get any reoccurring issues. I'm always looking at things through this lens, injury prevention. So men, my plan and promise, right? And I'm just going to add an extra layer to these two. But why there is confusion, in my opinion, to this, the muddying of the waters, the fact that the fitness industry is heavily influenced by the bodybuilding industry. The bodybuilding industry obviously is hypertrophy training, but because that's spanned out into other areas, strength, powerlifting, whatever, athletic training, functional training, whatever it's called, there's just mixed opinions and mixed information just getting pushed out onto use. So it's important to know the difference and important to know what value what you're training first and foremost, and what benefit that is providing you, if any. So that's why it matters. Like I said on the previous slide, hypertrophy training, when done well, will reduce your pain, increase your range of motion. It will earn you the right to strength train. Strength training starts to build resilience, so then you get rid of the reoccurring injuries. I promise at the start of the video you will know why strength training is different to hypertrophy training, and I'm going to elaborate slightly on volume again. Hypertrophy training, you can do up to 40 sets without any noticeable drop-off. With strength training, because of the high demands on the muscles and the central nervous system, you have to cap your training at 10 working sets. For example, if you want extremely strong knees, right? You want extremely strong quads to support your knees. You shouldn't do more than 10 strength training sets per week. With hypertrophy, more volume will get you more muscle mass. Volume is the most important thing for building muscle. For strength, if you do too much volume on strength, it will have a detrimental effect on your strength. Your recovery just gets absolutely battered. You start feeling unwell. And if any of you have experienced this, getting this wrong, just leave a comment down below and just tell us about it, because it brings to life the points I'm trying to hammer home here. So that's why it matters, and it is more important the older you get that you get this right. And I just hope as well that you stop having a negative stigma towards hypertrophy training because of the injury preventative benefits that it does provide for a good few months into your training journeys. Gentlemen, just over 15 minutes. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you found this one useful, and hopefully you can put it into practice. See you in a bit.